Greetings, fellow lightworkers. This is Mike, back once again, here to talk today about what I'm going to be calling how to be completely immune from fear-mongering and negative news. I want to talk about this because there is currently so much negativity and fear-mongering in mainstream media that I kind of just wanted to explore this in a way that my higher self has revealed to me, like why this is happening this way and how you can effectively just not succumb to such negativity in the world, and how you can stay aligned in your higher self and navigate in a world with such insane polarity between light and dark. First part of this I want to talk about is kind of just a little intro to like what's going on in the world, like why is this such an issue. And I don't want to talk in this video about like what's actually going on, like who's at fault, who's right and who's not. I'm just kind of go through this briefly, because there's a battle of information warfare going on. I'm sure everyone's aware that on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, if you contradict the narrative of what mainstream media is telling everyone is happening, you simply get censored. Posts get deleted, you get banned, and basically there is no longer any free speech on those platforms, which is interesting because on one hand people think that it's the right thing to do, so what they call the misinformation about the pandemic isn't spread. But on the other hand, they're taking away people's right to free speech and saying that if you don't agree with what we tell everyone is true, then we're just going to delete what you say. And so the point of this video is not to take sides in this whole thing, but to explore energetically, like what is going on? Why is this such a battle currently about people who say that this is not as serious as media is telling everyone it is, versus the media saying, keep everything closed. We need to keep things closed. And then stuff about like invasive testing and forced vaccines and all this stuff. If it ever comes to that, I pray it won't. I would never take that. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about in this first part more was the strategy of like why does the mainstream media fearmonger so badly? And I want to talk about like what I think happens like from the top down of who's really in control of the media is the black nobility, or what people call the cabal, the deep state. The richest families in the world are in control of governments, in control of corporations at the highest level. And that's censored as well. Mainstream doesn't want you to be aware of that, but doing research makes it very obvious that they're the ones behind all of this, pulling the strings. And what they're really battling for in all of the fear-mongering through media is they want control of your perception of what is best for you. They want you to look up to them in the mainstream media, like, here is what you need to be aware of for your own good. And that's a fundamental error, to think that what they want is for your own good. They're just pushing their own agendas to stay in power and keep the things hidden that's been hidden for so long. And the way they do this is they get people to focus on endless distractions and worry about what's wrong, what can go wrong. And this is all done by perpetuating objectification, or just keeping people separate from knowing anything, any awareness at all about their higher self. Complete separation from the reality of knowing beyond a shadow of a doubt that you are infinitely more than just your physical body. And that is the thing that they fear the most, is everyone in the world realizing that. Because when that happens, the people that hold the wealth, the top 1%, they no longer have the ability to stay in power. All of the other people will reclaim the power that they gave to those that hoarded all of the currency, because they no longer agree to that collective belief system that we all created willingly. And that's kind of like, just in my mind, that's what's going on, is they want us to just be endlessly distracted and not realize that we can all unify as our higher selves, both all individually as our own higher self and our collective higher self, our collective I am presence. Because they fear that, because they think that they have strayed so far from just the path of holiness and goodness, and their ability to ever return to grace, that the only way that they see they can survive is to keep the whole world from ever returning to that. Because if everyone else did it, then that means they would have to try and do it too. But they don't think they can do it. They think they've become too dark, too evil, unforgivable. So if everyone else does it, that means that their identities that they have locked themselves away in are gone, and they have to come to the light. And so the whole strategy of just fear-mongering through the news, and it doesn't even matter whether or not the pandemic news is accurate or inaccurate. They just want you to stay focused on problems and not focus on the light within you, which is what you are, is your higher self. Everyone has a higher self, and all our higher selves converge as the one I am of humanity. And so fear-mongering is able to take root in people's consciousness as a viral belief system, because it takes root in the space between you and your higher self that you've imagined to be true. That's the only way fear-mongering can divide and conquer people. And it's all just battling over that, placing the roots down in that distance that you've imagined. This makes it bigger and bigger. It's just this viral construct. That's all fear-mongering is. And so the second part of this I want to talk about is once you become aware of why fear is the only play, the only card they have to play, is because that's the only thing that can keep people from knowing that they are their higher self, is just more fear. What's kept people from their higher self for so long? It's just fear, so they're trying to perpetuate it. But what you can do as a technique to be completely immune to fear-mongering and worrying about what the mainstream media or the news is telling you to believe is what I've been talking about in other videos, is a higher self embodiment practice, which is a practice of just teaching yourself and learning to know that you are your higher self. Your higher self is equally always a higher vibrational reality of who you are above you, but it's always also within you. The patriarchal system of submitting to a God outside of yourself is another one of the divide and conquer, endless distractions of fear-mongering. But what changes completely is when you realize that your higher self is equally within you and above you. So you're not just saying, poor little me, and the higher self is always greater than I am. No, you can become your higher self to the degree that you allow it and believe it's possible. And so it doesn't mean that you think that you are, the highest self and become prideful and boastful about it. Any person on a genuine spiritual path is always a student, always learning, and always a teacher, willing to spread love and knowledge. And so I made a list here of some useful higher self embodiment practices for being resistant to fear-mongering and negativity in the world. First one is remove distractions. This is like when so many people are addicted to endless distractions, keeping them from being alone with themselves. People are addicted to suffering. This is a huge thing to talk about. Addiction to suffering means staying separate from your higher self. And so people watch the news every day because they're addicted to distractions and suffering to keep perpetuating what they think they are, which is the feelings of fear and separation. Because when that's gone, if you're in a mental construct where you think you are your ideas or your worries or your identity structures, when they're gone, you would think that's a death. And it is a death. It's the death of those identities, but the real you that's beneath all of that is revealed. So removing distractions is scary and destructive if you're addicted to them, but being addicted to suffering is a choice, and you can say no to it and choose to acknowledge yourself as holy and divine, and then those things will fall away, because who you become, those distractions can't stay in your energy field. Second point on here is I wrote a quote that I just channeled out of nowhere. It says, I perceive this world as the crystal clarity of my higher self. And that is a very quantum idea, a very quantum affirmation of shifting your awareness to perceive the world as crystal clarity, which is an aspect of your higher self. And you can do that. Your higher self is the present moment, completely unconditioned and free from any ideas at all. So as a creator being in the image of Father, Mother, Creator, you can put your consciousness in the present moment, and you can perceive the world as the crystal clarity of your higher self. And that means to just like shift through timelines and just declare that you are your higher self right now. Doesn't matter if you don't even understand how or why, but you can declare it right now, and it can be true in your energy field. Okay, number 3 was, self-love. Self-love is the most important aspect of a higher self-embodiment practice, because it helps you remember how to both give and receive love in your own energy field. Self-love is not selfish, because whenever you realize that loving your own heart equally translates into everything around you, because love is an energy of self-recognition in everything. So loving yourself means that you are moving into alignment with your higher self. What I scribbled down here was cellular harmonic resonance of immunity. And that's where a healthy immune system comes from, is from your whole body being this harmonic, resonant, integrated energy field of spiritual bodies, mental bodies, emotional bodies, physical body, all completely aligned and knowing that you are your higher self. You are a holy creation of the universe. And when you do that, immunity builds within you, not as just like this physical defense mechanism against harmful pathogens, which is what the media teaches you about. But an energetic immunity means that any creations of fear, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, of the world around you, just instantaneously melt in your energy field and return to the light. And that is kind of how I program my energy field. Like when I go out into the public now, like if you wear a mask or not, you can program your energy field to be just like radiant immunity by being in a container of self-love. And that equally goes to everyone around you. And that's the root of physical immunity in your body, is immunity from any creations of fear. And the other part of this I put on here is about how to just like glorify and celebrate your inner child. This is something that I love doing, is creating affirmations of like if you're speaking to a little child and you're trying to uplift them and strengthen them and make them feel important and heard and validated. It's like it's such an important practice to just talk to yourself and to just say like, you are the realization of my greatest fantasy, to your own heart, exactly the way you are. Or you could say like, you are my greatest dream come true. You are exactly the way you're meant to be. There is nowhere else in the universe I would rather be than be exactly here as I am with you as you are right now. And these statements strengthen your immunity and your energy field, your ability to be rooted in the love of your higher self. This is how you build an invincibility to fear-mongering, where it's just like a whole different timeline that's not even like a blip on the radar of your consciousness anymore. And that doesn't mean that you don't care or leave other people behind. It means you've realized that whenever you activate these things in yourself, you have an ability to activate these things in everyone else too, because that's what self-love is. It's an energy of self-recognition. It's like, I'm powerful enough to become who I am for everyone else, for the world. And that's how you just unleash the infinite power of your innocence, which is the very essence of your inner child, the child of God within you. Okay, number 4 was recreate yourself by knowing nothing. This is a very powerful thing here. By knowing nothing about yourself, I think I talked about this, means you're being in the completely unconditioned Holy Spirit light of your higher self. And this is where, like, if you identify as solely your physical body, you have this perception of birth whenever you enter the world through the womb, and then death when you leave your physical body. But if you are anchored in the present moment, anchored in your higher self, and you know absolutely nothing about who you are, which means you're free to just know what your higher self wants you to know in the moment, then you're compressing birth and death into the present moment, which is like the quantum instant. And when you do that, in every moment, everything is deconstructed and reconstructed in your consciousness, where everything is a transformation and a rebirth. This is how your higher self experiences itself, by being brand new all the time. It doesn't have a perception of who it was or what it could be or what it did wrong. It's all in this moment, being completely reborn as the possibility to be anything, which is what your imagination is. The ability to imagine that you can be absolutely anything in your mind. And that means that when you put your mental energy there, your mental body moves there. And when you imagine yourself as there, you can feel yourself as there. That's when your emotional body aligns to that instantaneous rebirth of becoming your wildest passions and dreams. And that's when your physical self can begin to align there. And your higher self can begin to manifest the feelings you've imagined in the quantum instant, but always in that way or greater, which is a thing a lot of people get hung up on with the law of attraction, is hung up on things happening a certain way. But however, whenever you're thinking as your the higher self that you are, in your awareness of it, which is always becoming greater, it can only imagine so much. So when you have this amazing idea and you compress yourself into the quantum instant and you feel it and you see it and you know it, invite that to come, but invite the feeling to come, not the outer idea of how it can happen. Just ask your higher self to make the feeling happen in whatever way best serves the highest will of the universe. And so that is how you break the chains of fearful creations and ideas in your energy field, is to compress your consciousness into the moment. And that's when birth and death happen at the same time. And there is no fearful creations, because you're always being reborn as your higher self, being reborn as self-love. Next one I had was, of all I do not know, my higher self knows for me. This is a prayer I channeled a couple weeks back, and this was based a lot in just freedom in not knowing exactly like where your life is going or how circumstances are going to occur. But that's okay, because of all you do not know, your higher self knows for you. You don't have to know who you'll be 1 year from now. You don't have to know exactly like when or how a new relationship would come. You can take like so much freedom and liberation in just knowing that your higher self knows these things for you. You don't have to know the details. That's like the manifestation I was just talking about. You don't have to know the details of how manifestations happen. You just align your energy field to how you want to feel, and ask your higher self to help you get there and keep building momentum to get there, and you can go even further. Next one I had was becoming your I am self. This is just an extension of compressing your consciousness into the unconditioned aspect of your energy field. And by doing that, it truly means you can be completely immune to fear-mongering. Because when you have absolute certainty of who you are, and it's just a vibrational knowing of truth, just I am. That's why I am is the name of God. It's truth. It's the quantum instant of being born, being recreated, birth and death instantaneously. The I am. That's how you experience space and time, as these ideas that are so rigid and solid and seem like they just have so much inertia and want to stay the way they are. It's because the I am is so malleable and so infinitely powerful and able to change anything instantaneously that it wants to create stuff like that that's going to stick around for a while. It wants to experience it, because when everything can change instantaneously, things sort of might lose their meaning. And the last thing I wanted to say about this part was, whenever you are practicing a higher self embodiment practice, always examine why you're doing it. Don't do it just for yourself. Because that's just such a limited and constrained purpose to do it. Whenever you have a genuine higher self embodiment practice, you can feel that your higher self is the higher self of everyone in the universe. So you can devote the practice for the liberation of all beings. That's the whole point of a higher self embodiment practice in a world like this, is to do it for the liberation of all beings. Because so many people in the world don't even have a clue that they have a higher self, or that they are their higher self. Because this information has been so suppressed and so attacked and censored for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And so whenever you reconnect to this, it awakens a very deep gratitude within you of being able to consciously connect to this and understand it to the point where you want to awaken it for other people. Because that's really the only way you can be immune from fear-mongering. Fear-mongering is able to take hold of people because they think that they are their physical self, and that's it. That's how fear-mongering has any power at all. And you can completely transform that by consciously choosing to become your higher self. And that is going to be about the end of the video. I think this was a pretty long one. I hope the video assisted you in just gaining clarity about why news and mainstream media is the way it is in the world, because they want to perpetuate a sense of separation from your own divinity and your higher self, and they want you to think that they know what's best for you. They want your power, and so many people are giving them their power. It's crazy. And you can completely reclaim all of that power by consciously choosing to know that you are your higher self. You are divine. You are holy, in the image of Father, Mother, Creator. And whenever you reconnect to that, the fear in the world has no power. In your consciousness, you exist so far vibrationally beyond any conception that there could be any reality where fear has power. It's just mind-boggling that you can even still exist in this world whenever you reconnect to your higher self in any way, honestly. And the more you connect to it, it just boggles your mind that you can coexist in this world with such polarity. And the more you really align into your higher self practice, it becomes less of like this mind-boggling thing and more of just this incredible gift where you can be the love of your higher self in this world for so many people that are so scared. And that's such an incredible gift. It's such an incredible opportunity to be of service. It's just the whole point of being able to reconnect to your higher self is to do it for the world, because everyone is holy, everyone is divine, and for whatever reason, whatever you want to think about the agendas going on in the government and corporations and mainstream, it doesn't matter. We need to just choose our higher self right now. That's how easy it is. And then all of that just disappears. Well, this has been Mike, and I hope that you have a deeper clarity of your higher self now, and how to just not let any of the fear-mongering touch you, because you're powerful enough to just not let any of this touch you. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.